In this video, I'll show you the top 6 best entry points that you can easily replicate yourself. If you start using these entry points, your stats could go up by 20 or even 30% higher than before. And for example, if you're a complete beginner, this approach could help you achieve 70 to 80% profitable trades. So get comfortable, and let's get into the video. The very first entry point is a bounce off a level. A lot of beginners actually ignore levels, and that's a big mistake. Let's find an example. But first, it's important to explain what a level actually is. Look, a level is a certain price value. So, for example, we can mark it right here, even make it bolder. And look, to mark a level, we need at least 2 touches. So, for instance, the first touch starts to form the level. The second touch confirms that it really is a level. And the third touch confirms that from here on, we can work off the bounce. A lot of beginners just mark 2 touches at the same price point and think that's a level. In reality, that's correct, but it's not confirmed yet. For confirmation, we need a first touch, a second touch, and the third touch also has to be from the level. That's exactly what confirmation is. So, the first 2 touches form the level, and the third one confirms it. So, we'll be working with the fourth and subsequent touches. Let's try to look at an example. Look, here on the currency pair. Yes, it's the OTC market, but still, I could open my trade from here. My entry point turned out to be pretty bad, but even so, the price should give us a decent reaction. Let's watch. We had a touch here, here, and here. So, there are already plenty of confirmation points showing that this is indeed a strong level. That's why I can confidently open a sell trade from here. We can even open a second trade, just in case, from up here at a better entry point for $2,500, so that if anything happens, we can immediately cover this bad entry point. Yeah, oddly enough, this is a video about entry points, and my first trade has a bad entry point. Next, I'll show you how to fix this and, as always, how to pick the right entry points. And one more important note, all the entry points shown in this video will work both for the OTC market and the regular market. We take the first profit. Now we wait for the second trade to finish. Year 2, the price should go into profit for us. So, you could say this was kind of a safety net, but even the first trade closed in profit. Waiting for the second one. We have literally less than 10 seconds left. And the second trade will also close in profit and brings me 2,300 bucks. So once again, you can work from any point off the level. It could be above, below, or even in the middle of your chart. But the most important thing is to remember the 3 touches. 3 touches mean confirmation. In reality, you might have 2 touches from below, 2 from above, and then somewhere here you enter on the rebound. But we always trade in the opposite direction from where the price came. So if it came from above, we open a trade upwards. If the price came from below, we open a trade downwards. That's clear now. Now let's move on to the second entry point, which will really give us the best entries, so you don't repeat my situation. But first, I want to remind you that we have a VIP channel where we share our signals every day and also share ready-made strategies. If you don't want to trade using our signals at all, and you don't want to learn, then you have the option to connect your account to ours. We have a lot of traders who are trading and who are actually making money. So if you want to join us, if you want to connect your account to our traders, you need to message our managers with the phrase, "I want copy trading." We will connect your account to ours, and as a result, you will start making a profit from it. For all the details, follow the link in the description and message our managers. If you want access to the VIP channel, also message our managers and let them know that you really want the VIP channel. The links will be in the description and in the pinned comment. Now, let's move on to the second entry point. Look, the next tool works like this. You need to set a 5-second candle, and that will be an excellent entry point. How does this even work? Look, if we take the levels we just discussed, that's a standalone strategy, right? Here, we're just using the bounce. But the 5-second candle itself isn't a standalone strategy, though it can help us in other strategies. How does that work? For example, if you're working with the alligator indicator, you just enter on the touch. But if you add a new 5-second candle, your chances immediately go up. Let's wait for this trade to close, and then we'll see how this actually affects things, and why the 5-second candle is needed, since it's really a very useful tool. By the way, right now this 5-second candle really helped me out and you could say saved me. So how does this work in general? If you're working, for example, with a robot or some kind of strategy, or even with an indicator, it doesn't matter. Let's say you want to enter a buy position right here, and what happens at that moment? Your entry point would be here. The price immediately drops in the moment, and then goes higher. Accordingly, everyone who entered here has their entry point somewhere around here or here. But if you open a trade on a new 5-second candle, you get this kind of drop. You open a trade to go up here, and so this whole movement is already your profit. So, after that, the price goes even higher, and that's your bonus compared to everyone else who opened trades. Plus, it often saves you, like just now, by a few points. It could be +1 or +2 points. On the OTC market, it can sometimes reach up to 20 or 30 points in a moment. So, for example, we had a good entry point, but then the price started to drop. And because we have this very advantage, the price can fall a little lower. And so, the 5-second candle integrates into other strategies, and this will really be the best entry point. Let's continue our list and move on to third place. The next fairly rare pattern is from 2 to 4 candles in the opposite direction. Here, you need to understand that we should at least choose a 15-second time frame, and then trade for a profit. 1 minute. Look, we can observe movements like this. And accordingly, if we see 2 candles of the opposite color, that's already a good entry point. Yeah, so right here we have 3 profitable entry points. Next, right here we had 2 red candles, and accordingly that's a loss. So here we have 3 wins and 1 loss. But if we look back at the history, we had the same candle formation right here as well. Here and here too, we had 2 more wins, 1 more loss, and we see that this pattern really has a very high success rate, a very good win rate. If we look at the downward movement, we had 1 entry point, a second entry point, and that's it. And we didn't have any more entry points. And here as well, we had 4 candles work out for us. So this pattern is really rare, but still, it's very, very effective. If we look here, let's count together. Let's count only where we had 2 or more candles. So here the pattern worked, here too the pattern worked, here was also a good entry point, and here would have been a loss. Next, let's look where we have 2 candles of the opposite color here, a winning trade. Here, 3 candles, also a winning trade. Here as well, a winning trade. And then, after that, we just kept getting wins, although right here we would have caught a loss too. So basically, we have a simple pattern that gives us, roughly speaking, 70 to 80% winning trades. But you have to keep in mind that this is actually a rare pattern, and sometimes you just won't come across it. How does it work? For example, you have a strong upward movement, and all your candles are green. So here we have an upward movement, and you need to wait for 2 to 4 candles of the opposite color. Then you immediately open a trade in the direction of the trend. So if the price is going up, you wait for 3 red candles, anywhere from 2 to 4, and then you open your buy trade accordingly. If you have a downward movement, then you wait for 2 to 4 green candles and, accordingly, open a trade in the direction of the trend. Now let's move on to the 4th entry point. Look, the next pattern is actually very rare and only works on at least 1-minute candles. So anything lower, like 15 seconds for example, won't work. This pattern is called an empty candle. So what we're interested in is this kind of impulse candle. And most importantly, the neighboring candle shouldn't have any overlaps with it. That is, this shadow shouldn't exceed, for example, this candle itself, and they shouldn't cross each other. If these neighboring candles follow the rules, then we mark this empty space. So roughly speaking, here we have a candle, here we have a neighboring candle, and here's another neighboring candle. These are their minimums and maximums. What we're interested in is exactly this empty range where there were no trades. This is our best entry point. I'll show this in more detail next. If there is an overlap, for example, by 1 candle, then we can't use this range for trading. By the way, take a look. Here we have another example just like that. We can mark it right here. And we can see how perfectly this example works. Specifically on the 1-minute candles. So how do you actually work with this? If you find a candle like this, you can mark a rectangle and just imagine a line running roughly from the middle of it. Starting from about the middle will be the best entry point. So yes, sometimes, as you can see, the price won't even touch the middle. You can try entering right at the touch, but the safest way is to trade from the middle. So, you find this kind of empty candle, draw the rectangle, and open trades on the bounce. The logic here is very similar to trading at a level, but it's just a different tool, one that's even rarer and, by the way, even safer. The next entry point is a reversal candle. This is also actually a pretty rare pattern, but you can work with it confidently. There are also certain conditions that need to be met here. First, you have this kind of candle. There are several types of them. It could just be a little cap. It could be a candle with a lower shadow, a candle with an upper shadow, or a candle with both shadows. So, that's the first option. The second option is when the candle has a body. Again, the shadow can be on either side. It can be at the bottom, at the top, only on one side, or on both sides. Remember these variations. These are super safe points. These aren't quite as safe, but they still have their place. So what needs to happen? First and foremost, we need to have an impulse. Then, one of these candles should appear. So, if you see an impulse and then a candle like this, immediately open a sell trade. If you see, for example, that the price moved down from above, and then you get this kind of candle with a tail at the bottom, open a buy trade. So, we also work in the opposite direction, and you can really see a lot of these patterns. Some are textbook examples, some are beautiful, and some not so much. But still, they work really well. Just take a look at this example. Here we have an impulse, here's a reversal candle, and we open a sell trade. Here, we could have opened a buy trade as well. And we can see that here we also had an impulse candle going up. Again, a reversal candle with a very long wick. And accordingly, we could have opened a sell trade. If you look, there are actually a lot of such situations. So again, here's an impulse candle, a reversal candle, and we open a sell trade. Again, we have a reversal candle, so we open a buy trade. Yes, sometimes there are false signals, but you have to understand that this is an entry point for beginners. You can adapt it to fit a particular strategy, and then you'll have a high win rate. But even this entry point alone gives about 60 to 70% winning trades. Let's move on to the very last entry point. The next entry point is the crossing of indicators. A lot of people use indicators as helpers, but many don't realize that they can also be used as entry points. In other words, any crossover can be made into an entry point. It can be any indicator. It could be RSI, it could be Vortex, whatever you like. But sometimes indicators really do give us very useful entry points, so you can learn to trade using them. For example, here we had an entry point for selling, and here for buying. And here too, we see a sell signal. So, if you learn how to read indicators, you can really make some great entry points at the crossovers. If you want to learn more about entry points and indicators, then first of all, subscribe to this YouTube channel. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our Telegram channel. There you'll find guides on all the indicators and reviews of strategies that you can immediately put into practice. That was my top list of entry points. If you want to get even more, message our managers. Also, let me remind you that you have the opportunity to join our copy trading and simply copy our trades without even trading yourself. All you need to do is connect your account to ours. If you want to do the same, just message our managers and they'll help you set everything up. In short, all useful links will be in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. See you in the next videos.